freaking bats. I love Halloween.
Why do you like Halloween so much?
There's always Halloween in my soul.
Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast, the podcast where we answer the question, is this a perfect movie? I'm Michael.
I'm Kalen.
And today, we're doing a little bonus Halloween episode. This film is from the acclaimed director of Megalopolis, Jack and Peggy Sue Got Married. It's Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Most well known for The Godfather.
And being a purveyor of many wines.
Yeah. He's a classic guy. What can you say?
Director of The Godfather, director of Apocalypse Now. Those are really his main credentials.
Yeah.
And this is a semi-faithful adaptation of, I guess, the Dracula novel, which I've never read.
Yeah.
Written by Bram Stoker. It is starring Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder, Gary Oldman, Anthony Hopkins, a few other
It's a stacked cast.
standouts. Carrie Elwes shows up for a little bit. Yeah, so Kalen, you kind of brought this one to my attention.
I literally just discovered this movie the other night, and I loved it. This movie looks so good, dude. For 1992, the cinematography in this, oh my God. And it hits... I'm just a sucker for like gothic, Victorian era shit, and it just, oh my God, it was awesome. The fucking sets and some of it looked kind of stupid, but it was like the colors, like the sky would be like completely red, and it was great. The music was awesome. I love vampire shit, and this movie made vampires like kind of creepy and weird and like ethereal. And I love that aspect of like vampires because you don't get that too often. Mm-hmm. But the story of Dracula is very much that. He's very much a supernatural kind of creature and otherworldly. And it follows the story of Vlad the Impaler, which is like a legend of a real guy who used to impale his victims on stakes. He was like a warlord, basically. And but for Dracula, he was basically this lord of whatever castle, and he would go to battle, and his wife ended up killing herself because she thought he died in battle one time, and so he's kind of on this like he was like damned by God, and then he became this creature of the night, and he's kind of cursed for eternity, whatever, this whole vampire lore. But I've never read the book, but I loved how like they kind of just slightly went over like the last voyage of the Demeter, which was a movie from last year that fleshes out the story more. But apparently, like you were saying, it's pretty faithful, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. I do have some critiques, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Michael, I want to know what you thought of it.
It's a really cool movie. Like you said, it aged very gracefully. That's partially because all the effects that they did, I believe there's one effect that wasn't captured entirely in camera, so they're doing all like old style effects, lots of like rear projections and matte paintings and like double exposures and all kinds of like tricks that you would have seen more in like the golden age of Hollywood. And I think that's kind of what this movie often harkens back to, is like golden age monster movies.
Yeah.
The shadows on the walls.
Yeah.
The like this film, I wouldn't want it because there's many colors that pop, but like this film would make a lot of sense in black and white.
Yeah, for sure.
So I thought it was really cool. It certainly has some like unevenness. I think it's a little like I think you just like a fairy tale story more than me.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
So it's definitely great, well made, and it's definitely made by a great director, and there's definitely some great things about it, particularly involving Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
just acting circles around everybody younger than them.
Oh, for sure.
But it's really cool. It's really interesting, and there's more to get into as we go. So should we get into the performance test?
It was the performance of a lifetime.
So Gary Oldman plays Dracula. And he was awesome. He had to do some like prosthetic stuff where he wore like old man makeup to look extra creepy as like older Dracula. And then he was also his younger self, and he kind of looked like Jack Sparrow a little bit. Yeah, he was great, and he steals every scene he's in. And he just is able to play like this malevolent being very well. I don't know. He just oozes like he's just a passionate actor. And I really love the intro sequence when he is like basically cursing God, and like blood starts leaking from the statue and stuff. And he's just like, he's acting his ass off in that scene. Like you can tell he really had fun with this character. And yeah, he was really great. I think he was definitely the standout.
Yeah, and this movie kind of picks up when the first familiar of Dracula, Renfield, has been like sent to an insane asylum. And then this guy, Jonathan Harker, played by Keanu Reeves, is sent to be his aide. Yeah. And a lot of the first half of the movie is Keanu Reeves just witnessing strange things happening within the castle. Mm-hmm. You know, he starts wandering the castle, and then he sees these, like, vampire concubines that he stumbles upon.
Like succubus or something.
Yeah, and they kind of like suck him into the bed, and they start sucking his blood, and he's just there in like a trance-like state. And then Dracula shows up being 12 feet tall.
Dude, that scene when Gary Oldman comes like floating through the door, it gave me chills because it was so like. And there's a couple scenes like this because I think some of it is played in reverse, and then they shoot it that way, and so it looks like the movement is very like unearthly, and like or otherworldly and weird looking. And the way he like floated through that door and like he kind of contorts his hands and stuff, I was like, oh, what the fuck? That's like some disturbing imagery, and it was very effective.
And then the other half of the movie is about what is her name?
Winona Ryder?
It's Winona Ryder, but she's Mina as her future self, right?
Yes.
Keanu Reeves, bride-to-be, who he leaves behind to go on this journey. Keanu ends up like trapped at the castle, or eventually flees the castle, but...
he's trapped there for a while, but Dracula travels to England.
Yes. Moves himself over to England and then stumbles upon Winona Ryder, who happens to be... spitting image, maybe reincarnation.
Reincarnation, that's what I figured. His wife.
Of his wife from the past. They have a few scenes where sort of a romance begins.
Yeah.
And it's typical vampire lore where like by the final time they meet, she's like, please turn me into a vampire.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to be with you. There's a lot of complications along the way. There's 3 suitors that are after this Winona Ryder's best friend, Lucy. And Lucy's actually the first.
She's the first one to get turned by Dracula.
Lucy! Lucy!
Come to me, Arthur. Leave these others and come to me. My arms are hungry for you, my darling. Kiss me and caress me, my darling husband, please.
Holy blood! We're strong in the Lord! In the power of his might! We're strong in the Lord! In the power of his might! The power of God is upon us! We're strong in the Lord and the power of his might! We're strong in the Lord and the power of his might! We're strong in the Lord and the power of his might! Ex umbris in luce! I bring you from shadow into light! I cast you out, the prince of darkness, into hell!
I would say Lucia is probably the best scene in the film, where she is carrying the child into the crypt. Oh. That's probably the best scene in the movie. It's so well done, and it's so creepy. And Van Helsing is in that scene. Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing is awesome in this. He's great. He also steals every scene he's in because he's kind of like a drunken asshole, and it's pretty great. But there's a scene with Lucy, and she has died, and it's kind of the same thing where it's like the vampire can't fully become a vampire until they die, much like Midnight Mass or whatever. But she dies, and she is buried in the coffin, and that night she comes out, and she's like carrying this child down into the crypt, and they confront her, and they put a crucifix on her, and she like crawls back into the coffin, and then but that scene was played in reverse. So the way they shot it, it was a reverse shot, and so it looks like she's going back into the coffin, but she's actually coming out. And so the way her eyes shut, again, it's like that thing where it just looks so unnatural, and that was a really cool scene. And then she like throws up blood. There's a lot of different like just the way this movie looks and the way it's shot and different things. There's a lot of influences. We'll get into more of that in It's an Art, but I definitely noticed some of that as well.
I want to shout out Tom Waits as Renfield. We don't see him much, but his whole deal is to just kind of scream and be like, my master, he's given me eternal life. And Tom Waits is just a great character actor. I know him mostly as the guy that loves rabbits and Seven Psychopaths.
Yeah.
He's just a great little side character. And yeah, it just kind of, all the parts of Dracula lore are like here. It is very, feels like this is the adaptation of Record. This is the one to rule them all. And it's funny that we have Anthony Hopkins and Gary Oldman here together, both have played, menacing killers. Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter, and Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill.
I got that joke, yes. I'm waiting for you to continue.
And notice we haven't mentioned Keanu Reeves in this section.
Okay. Yeah. I what I will say is, Keanu, I love you, buddy, but holy shit.
So there's some behind the scenes as to why Keanu ends up in this part. Francis Ford Coppola had gone through a series of not as successful films. If you look at his 80s films after Godfather 2, not a lot of successes. Not a lot of films that, spark in a lot of people's minds. And so American Zoetrope, his production company, was going through it. So this was like a real money-making opportunity for him. He's like, I'm going to adapt this Dracula book. It's going to have a lot of new, young, sexy actors. Hello, Winona Ryder. Hello, Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really horny, and hopefully it'll be a really big success. And Keanu, I think Winona Ryder also sometimes struggles alongside of some of these great actors with the, I feel like an American, they just have modern faces and modern line deliveries.
Yes.
It's like Sydney Sweeney in Immaculate. It's like this is they just feel so modern and not fitting into the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Like even some of the younger men, like Cary Elwes, who we know as the Prince in Princess Bride.
Yeah.
Like he's a modern man that he's also been Robin Hood Man in Tights. Like he's a man that fits in an older age. Some people just don't have the face and look for it. And Keanu, bless his heart.
I'm trying to think of some younger actors from that time that maybe could pull it off. I was going to say maybe Brad Pitt, but I don't think Brad Pitt could pull off the accent. But he was a great actor, and I know he was also in another vampire film with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
The Interview with the Vampire. But I think that was set in America.
Johnny Depp. This would have been around like Edward Scissorhands time.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say Johnny Depp probably.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of other I'm thinking like Patrick Swayze. No, probably not. Other late 80s, early 90s. Yeah.
Maybe,
I mean, it's
Ewan McGregor?
Maybe. I think he'd be a little young.
Possibly.
At this time?
I was trying to think of when Trainspotting came out. I think that was
that would have been 96.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There's not a lot of other names I would name, but Keanu, he's not a transformative actor.
No.
Keanu plays Keanu Reeves. wherever he is.
He's probably one of the greatest stuntmen of all time, or like choreographers. But yeah, sorry, buddy. It wasn't working.
And I mean,
and that fucking hairpiece he had on when he started to, for whatever reason, his hair turned gray. I'm guessing that's because he was getting the life sucked out of him by these succubuses. But
apparently it's in the book that his hair turns white, but they never explain it.
No.
And the way they color his hair is like very cut rate. Like that's what I would expect at your like community theater.
Yeah, it looked a little dusty.
It just looked like some like $3 spray you buy
Yeah.
at the Halloween store.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think the cast, for the most part, was pretty great. I thought the actress who played Lucy was pretty good. She was just moaning a lot, but when she turned into the vampire, she was very convincing. It was very good.
When she goes up to the Texan and says, "Ooh, it's so big," and pulls out his big Bowie knife.
Yeah, she was very horny this entire time. Very horny.
She was like sitting around reading the Kama Sutra on her own time.
Also, Gary Oldman kind of looked like Emperor Palpatine a little bit.
Yeah. Padme Amidala a little bit.
Yeah. He had a whole bunch of different characters going on.
Because when he has that like those buns he has in his hair at the start, he looks like, or just any grandma.
That was a weird kind of choice for hair for Dracula. It kind of worked though. It was just very bizarre looking.
A lot of it works, and a lot of it is off the wall as far as costuming, and there's an explanation for that I can get to, and it's an art bro.
All right.
I have one question before we end the performance test: is are we Winona Riders? Do we ride with Winona Ryder? Do we like her performance in this movie? Do we like Winona Ryder in general? Hey, we talked about not Johnny Depp, but Tim Burton, Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
She's in that before
I
this.
thought she was fine in this. I don't think she was definitely not like a weak link. I think she performed as much as her character gave.
I think she would have looked like the weak link if Keanu Reeves wasn't right next to her
Yes.
and doing even worse.
For sure.
Like she's like a 5 out of 10 and he's like a 2 out of 10. He's like, well, you learned your lines.
For me, I always see Winona Ryder as like a TV actress because Stranger Things and different things like that. She's fine. She's not an Oscar-winning actress in my book, but I think maybe I'm trying to think of other actresses who play that part. I'm sure there was some at the time that would be more suitable. But
A woman so lovely and intelligent should not be walking the streets of London without her gentleman.
Do I know you, sir? Are you acquainted with my husband? Shall I call the police?
Husband, I shall bother you no more.
And the new idea that this film brings, which I think is supposed to be part of its like pop appeal, is the tragic romance of the film is not in the book.
oh, it's not.
That is the thing that Coppola's kind of added in.
Okay.
And what do we think about the tragic romance? Is it effective? They don't give you a ton of time together with the two of them. But to me it works, especially because like the middle scene is when they're like taking absinthe at their like dinner and they're getting real like horny and hazy together. And that feels like a very proper, because we are in the sort of ethereal realm of dealing with vampires, way to like shortcut to them having a like emotional bond after that scene.
Yes.
You know, sometimes people take drugs together and grow closer.
Well, I mean, I always kind of saw it that he was just manipulating her the entire time because, I mean, vampires can have some control over your mind, too, where it's like she probably wasn't in full control of her actions and emotions. But also, too, I'm one of those people who I think subtlety is best when it comes to movie monsters, especially vampires. I think vampires are most effective when we don't see them a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And especially the character of Dracula, because he's so otherworldly. And you kind of lose some of that mystique when you just constantly... I mean, the movie is about him, but at the same time, when you're just constantly like following his character, you just lose a little bit of that. And then it becomes like... I wish there was more mystery to his character. I wish it wasn't like flat out that he was a vampire. You know, I wish over time you kind of like saw that. And I really hated that we saw him as like this giant bat monster, like really early on in the film. Yeah,
I was almost confused. I thought is there a werewolf involved in this story too?
No,
For a bit.
Well, so they mentioned earlier in the film, towards the beginning, that he has many forms. So I guess he takes on the form of like some kind of werewolf, and then he turns into this bat creature, like that's his true form. And then he can be young during the day, and then he's like, for whatever reason, this old man in his manor or whatever. I don't know. It's not really explained too well, but
one thing I will give this movie is while Van Helsing is an occasionally plot download guy where he'll just it leaves a lot of stuff to your imagination. It doesn't over-explain.
For sure.
Like, why does Dracula, when does he go into this form, and how does this power work? Because there's, at some point, an hour and a half in, Dracula's a green mist that just floats through everything, and I'm like, that's fine. You know, like, I didn't even blink twice.
Or he turns into rats, too. Yeah, he's like, I guess he's just a shapeshifter. Like,
yeah, there's all kinds of, like, stuff that it kind of throws at the wall, and you just are like, okay.
But I like that, because it adds to that whole mystique of his character, and just, like, we don't know what the fuck this thing is. Like, what is he? You know?
And we're wrong-footed just like the humans trying to take him down. They're like, oh, what the hell? He can be rats now?
And I like also how they don't explain how Van Helsing knows this stuff. He's just this guy that's just well-versed in the supernatural aspects of life. And he's like, you know, this is not something that can be explained by science. And, you know, I like that. It's an interesting character. And it's pretty cool. Shall we move along to It's an Art?
This is where we talk about the aspects of the filmmaking process, like sets, effects, lighting, various shots that we like.
This is where the movie shines the most, is just the way it looks. I love the opening when Keanu is going to the castle, and it's just like, oh my God, man. Just that whole setting and the atmosphere is just, it's there. And then it has that like kind of cheap factor to it. And it reminds you of like some of that old dark fantasy movies from like the 80s. I'm thinking like Dark Crystal or Never Ending Story. It's got that look to it, and it just has like it's a vibe, man. I don't really know how to explain it.
There's a lot of character to it. I love the trick that they're doing, which again captured in camera, not in post. They were blasting a light at some guy doing different things in the background because like Dracula's shadow isn't lining up with Dracula's actions a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Or like there's a shot where sometimes Dracula's shadow will like move things, bump into things. Dracula's shadow passes over a flower pot full of flowers, and the flowers all die.
Yeah.
There's lots of just little effects and details. Dracula's sneaking up behind Keanu Reeves, shaving in a mirror.
Yeah.
And Keanu Reeves only sees himself.
Yeah.
Dracula comes to London, buys a newspaper. We see the reflection of the newspaper floating in the air.
Yeah.
As we stare through the window at Winona Ryder. There's lots of like tiny little effects details in the doing the Dracula stuff.
Yeah.
That is all just really fun and really excellent, and just even the ways he's just kind of will occasionally just like float into a room, like you mentioned when he's like with all the concubines.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just kind of like, and all of a sudden he's 10 feet tall and you don't really know why, and he's like kind of slithering like a snake around instead of walking, and you just don't, it's never explained. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes Dracula's just a gust of wind that blows a window open, you know?
Or a fart.
Or a fart. Shout out to our future episode, Children of Men, Pull My Finger.
Oh, yeah.
Pull my finger.
I love the shot of the succubus like coming out of the rug or something.
The
like,
succubus doing what?
The succubus sucking off Keanu Reeves. No. The shot of like the harpy or whatever coming out of the rug. That was such an awesome looking visual. Yeah. It looks so cool. Fun fact, the video game Bloodborne was heavily inspired by this film, especially just the look of it and the music. There's shots of like the insane asylum where these like, I guess they're guards, but they have these metal like cages around their heads, and there's some enemies like that in Bloodborne that have the same look. It's just such a cool and like dark fantasy kind of thing. It's, you don't know what the fuck that's for, but I mean it looks cool, so why not, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's so they can't bite them if they're like maybe also locking away some vampiric people in there. Yeah, so or they can't get bitten in the neck.
I was just like thinking maybe it's so they don't get head trauma from these patients who are just like fucking crazy.
Yeah,
so
just dudes like walking around with like massive like raccoon traps on their heads. Yeah, basically.
It was really interesting looking. There's a lot of different shots like that. Just the camera work is wild in this. There's some stuff that like harkens back to like Sam Raimi. Like, you know, the dolly shots of it, like it'll be like, I guess it's Dracula's POV, and it'll be him just like gliding through whatever to some house. And then it will like pull up, and then it'll pull back, and it'll pull up again, and then it'll just shoot back out. Like, it's just different stuff like that. I'm like, it's so fascinating, and it looked really interesting. And then when they first showed the streets of England, when Dracula was walking through, it was like the old timey like.
I guess they pulled out an actual hand cranked camera to film that section.
I thought that was a really interesting choice as well, and it could almost pull you out of the film, but I thought it worked. Just because you've already seen so many different camera shots in this already.
Interesting, because we talk a lot about what is the studio and what is like the director and like where's the crossroads of the end product. Apparently Coppola wanted to shoot a lot more with that camera, and the studio was like, absolutely not. Good idea. Yeah. I could not watch much more of this movie with the shuddery old 1920s footage.
And that's what we'll kind of get into, or what I'll get into a little bit in the Let the Hate Flow Through, is excess. There's a lot of stuff in this film. I think for the most part, there's a lot of passion, especially in the craft of the filmmaking process. I don't know all the details. I didn't get too much time to like fully research like the behind the scenes, but from what I saw, it was very effective in some scenes. I mentioned earlier about how they would shoot some shots in reverse. And it just adds to that really weird feeling of this film, and it makes like the movement seem unnatural. And I really love that. It was a great choice. The costumes were great. Yeah. The music is amazing as well. The music was produced by, I'm gonna fuck this up. I don't even know if I want to say it.
Let me say it. Whoa!
Right?
Wojciech Kilar? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
He's Polish, and there's a J next to a C, and I don't know what that's going to do.
But, yeah, he was the composer. Just great score. And
it's really bombastic. There's a lot, it really sounds like when I was talking about old Hollywood. That's a lot of the feel is just how thunderous it gets in the big moments. And then even during, like, the more loving scenes, it has that, like, high-pitched, twinkly sound to it that also influences the mood.
Some scenes, they'll put actors on dollies, and then it kind of have them, like, gliding through a shot. There's the scene where Dracula first spots Winona Ryder's character, and he's, like, following her, and it zooms into him just kind of gliding across, like, through England. It's, like, through a crowd of people, but he's just gliding through. That was super cool looking. I love the first shot of Keanu Reeves getting into the carriage to go to Dracula's castle. There's this like really weird horse carriage driver or whatever, and his arm like extends and grabs him, and then he pulls him in, but he's like gliding into the
just one-handed scoops him very smoothly into the.
It was so cool looking, man.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say the other standout is when Keanu's riding the train on his way back to London. And there's the red sky and in the background, and then you also see Dracula's eyes like peering at him through the red sky. And again, all that's captured in camera. They're like double projecting in the background. They're projecting the red skyline, and then they're projecting the eyeballs on top of it. And then it's all getting captured, through the camera on Keanu's side. I mean, if Keanu could just speak in sign language, this might be one of the best movies ever made.
Right, exactly. I don't think I've ever really seen a film, especially from that time period, with such interesting camera work, besides like maybe some Sam Raimi stuff. There was a scene where that was like definitely Sam Raimi inspired, I think it was when Keanu was getting sucked off, but they zoom in on his face and he's like maniacal looking, and he's got blood on him. It looked like Sam Raimi stuff. Also some Exorcist inspiration as well, with the introduction of Van Helsing. It was definitely like the introduction of the priest, just that whole shot, and with the voiceover as well.
As he like walks up to the doorway. Yeah.
And then also with the blood throw up, it was very like Exorcist inspired, and
So the costume designer for this film is a Japanese man who was not familiar with like the story of Dracula like at all. And if you think about like his robe that he wears at his castle, it's very like royal Japanese.
Looks like a
flair.
kimono.
It looks like a kimono.
Yeah.
The robe that he's wearing when at the very end of battle, where he like busts out of the box.
Yeah.
It just takes the inspiration into like a total left turn from what the conventions of Dracula would be, which would be like a man with his collar up and a widow's peak and two
all
front
black
teeth.
garb. Yeah.
And they've just went completely, cross the ocean to a different world as far as like the inspirations for that.
Yeah.
Which I think was just a really bold choice and is one that, you might sign up for it and think, is this even going to work? And it ends up molding together in a way that is great. And all the costumes are great, but I mean, Dracula's kind of the standout for like his various...
His fits.
Fit check. Dracula's drip is on 10.
Yeah, for sure.
I loved his glasses that he was wearing when he was looking over them as he goes, notice me, or like, watch me, see me.
He was a pimp, for sure. Let's move on to, hey, what are you trying to say? Because I want to get to let the hate flow through.
Take it away whenever you're ready.
All right, let me just get that last measurement on your
Thank you. I need this for the wedding.
Okay, well,
I need it really quickly. Like
it could take about a week to do.
It could take a week.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you trying to say? It's trying to say that I'm so big, my bum is so big, you need to order to various countries far away to get enough material to make a pair of pants so I can fit my incredibly obese buttocks into a pair of your specially made little suits.
No, I mean I'm the only one working here this week.
Oh, okay.
This is where we talk about the themes and ideas. I mean, vampires are sexy. Vampires are back.
They are.
The sex is back in the vampires. Watching Twilight, which is the only vampire thing that has been posted thus far. Twilight's all about how you're withholding and you're not having sex.
Yeah. This is all about giving in.
No, this one is all about like the temptation and then the release,
Yeah.
Yeah. It is just a hell of a horny movie. And it's weird because like it's also highly gross in many points and off-putting and this isn't like Sexy Vampire 3.
There's like some bestiality kind of stuff going on.
She smooches him on the mouth when he's a monster.
Mm-hmm. And then she's like kind of rubbing this dog down a little too hard. Remember when the wolf or whatever, he like shows her the wolf?
Oh yeah.
And she's like rubbing that thing. And I'm like, ooh.
Well, I mean like in his original form when he's with Lucy.
He's actually fucking her.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy.
So, I mean, it's a very horny film. It's a film about lost love.
Yes. Also, I think it speaks a lot to like earlier physicians.
Yeah.
And just how they kind of dealt with that kind of stuff. Where I think the Lucy's fiance literally said, like, if you don't get better, I'm going to have to put you down like a dog. And they didn't understand like microorganisms and bacteria back then, and so the way they explained a lot of things in those earlier times were like you're either demon possessed or you're a witch because you're sick, and it's just kind of funny. I mean, thank God we live in the times we live in now, because back then, holy shit, you could get lobotomized for nothing. I just thought that was kind of funny because Van Helsing was like the anti-scientist. Where he was like, this is definitely not science. This is paranormal. Don't give her medicine. Put a stake in her fucking heart.
Yeah.
I love that scene where he immediately after they cut off Lucy's head, he's like cutting the meat. And then Winona Ryder is asking him, like, what happened to Lucy? He was like, oh, yeah, we fucking put a stake in her heart and cut off her head. But, sorry.
Doctor,
Yeah?
how did Lucy die? Was she in great pain?
Yeah, she was in great pain. Then we cut off her head and drove a stake to her heart and burned it, and then she found peace.
Doctor! Please.
This movie's just like Interstellar. Love transcends time.
Oh, yeah. We needed more Matthew McConaughey in this film.
Marv. What if Matthew McConaughey was Dracula?
All right.
Hey, ladies.
Let me suck you off.
Let me take my shirt off. University of Texas. Hook 'em horns.
Yeah, this actually made me interested to actually read the novel because I kind of want to see. They are also, I think Nosferatu. I haven't seen the original, but I believe Nosferatu is like along the lines of the same story. Because I've seen the trailer for the new film, and it looked kind of like the same type of story beats. Because I think it's like, I don't know if Willem Dafoe is playing Van Helsing. But there's like some stuff where they all go with torches to Dracula's castle kind of thing or whatever to kill him. And it looked very similar to that scene in this movie. And I was wondering if it was the same
I want to say
storyline.
It's actually the same. The monster's just a little different.
It's Count Olaf, which is like, I don't know if it's just a version of Dracula. But then like they also kind of glossed over the last voyage of the Demeter, which is like, I think this was just a bunch of different the book must be massive because there must be just a bunch of different plot lines and stories. So no, I think as far as like
is Dracula back now that there's a Nosferatu movie and we just had Last Voyage of the Demeter? Are Dracula's back?
I think vampires are just coming back. Scary vampires though, like going back to its roots, because then I think there's a movie with Michael B. Jordan that's like coming out.
It's true, Vampires in the South.
Yeah, that might be interesting. I also watched the TV show Interview of the Vampire. It's probably the gayest thing I've ever seen in my life, but I quite enjoyed it, and it kind of brought back that sensual aspect of like just erotica, basically. But with vampires. It was pretty interesting. It was a good story. But yeah, let's move on to Let the Hate Flow Through.
This is where we're going to air out our annoyances and our complaints.
Good. Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
Yeah, we touched on Keanu Reeves earlier. He was god-awful in this. So I mentioned excess, and you know how we talked about Scott Pilgrim, where I was like, is too much a bad thing with certain films, or how much is too much? And I think this movie crosses that line where there's so much going on and it's almost too chaotic in some aspects. Would you agree with that?
Are you just talking strictly in like a design and style sense, or like a story sense?
I would say both. I think because they're trying to fit in this novel into a feature film, and then also with the style of the filmmaking.
So I think what I'd say is the front half is more interesting than the back half, but
Yes.
the front half is also the part where you're stuck with Keanu Reeves being really bad
Yeah.
across from Gary Oldman, but it's the more interesting stuff, the like Dracula's castle bit. And then there are definitely moments once they're like on the hunt for Dracula where it's like, now the party's separated, now Winona Ryder is going to try to seduce Van Helsing now, and it's just it's a lot of work to get to a spot where they just stab Dracula.
And I think there's something that we kind of glossed over just a bit, but it's so campy. This movie is very, very, very cheesy. But it also like is able to. It's also able to take itself seriously too. But I think a lot of the cheesiness is unintentional. But I think it also speaks to the time period.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really hard to explain. This movie is so bizarre.
Picture a skateboarding half pipe.
Yes.
And on one side is melodrama, and on the other side is camp, and it just is kind of skating back and forth.
Yes. And because it's like you watch The Godfather and stuff. This is a competent filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking that there is like a lot of studio interference as far as like his full vision coming into play. I feel like a lot of that stuff, maybe the romance plot too, some of that was shoehorned in a bit, especially the stuff like, oh, she's got to seduce Van Helsing. Maybe that was in the book too. I don't know. But some of it just doesn't fit and doesn't work. And it almost feels like a completely different film towards the end where they have the final confrontation with Dracula. And that's when the movie kind of lost me. I thought the ending was really weak, and it just went full camp.
He's just like, no, she has to finish this. And we're like, why? When did we decide this?
Yeah, no, seriously.
No, wait.
No, let them go. Let them go. Our work is finished here. Hers has just begun.
It kind of took me out the film. I just thought the ending was like the set wasn't that great for the ending.
I mean, it's the same set from the beginning.
It is, but it looked a little bit different, and it had more of that like this is an actual set feel.
Mm-hmm.
Where maybe it was because of the lighting too, because it was like in the morning or something. Yeah, there's some odd choices.
But this is the guy that made Megalopolis, so I feel like swinging back and forth between camp and melodrama is very like
his thing. Okay. Because I mean, besides Godfather and Apocalypse Now, I haven't seen any of his other films, and those are like uber serious, like epics, you know. So this is kind of like in its own bizarre realm from his works, at least in my opinion. There are some odd choices though, as far as like some of the effects. The green mist didn't work for me. There was one point where the green mist went under her blanket and she lifted it up and it was all this green fart mist and it looked like she farted. It was so funny looking.
Pull my finger.
Yeah. Just little stuff like that. Some of the creature effects.
The green smoke was shot in reverse. It actually came out of her butt and floated up.
That room was pungent. That's all I'll say. Some of the creature effects, like when he was the werewolf thing, looked a little funny, but when you had close-ups of his face, it looked pretty good. But when he was a bat, it looked great. But yeah, this movie is so bizarre, and I'm kind of like surprised I had never seen it before. And I don't think it did very well. Because I know right now it's sitting at a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm kind of like, I mean, take Rotten Tomatoes scores with a grain of salt, but I feel like this should be a lot more beloved than it is. Because I'd never see anybody talking about this film, especially around this time of year.
I mean, outside of Francis Ford Coppola's like main three, which is the two Godfather movies and Apocalypse Now, I think this is like one of the two movies that is probably going to come up next.
Yeah.
As far as if people are listing off his great films.
Right.
But you're right, it's not, I don't know, it doesn't have like the uber popularity of, you know, certain horror franchises or even like his other beloved movies.
I don't know. This movie is like an anomaly. I just never really seen anything quite like it as far as like, especially for like a horror film of this genre. It's very bizarre, and I just really love that aspect of it, how weird it is. And I almost think it's like the ultimate Halloween film. As far as like your movie monsters go, I think this is probably one of the ones I'll probably throw on every Halloween season.
There's so many options, but it is a good one. So should we ask our final question? Is this a perfect movie?
You lost a baby brother. Perfect in every way.
I had a baby brother. I had a little baby brother. And he was perfect. Perfect in every way.
I want to say yes, but I don't know if you would agree.
I'm not writing as hard for this movie as you are, but I liked it a lot. So if you want to put it on the list, I'm not opposed to it.
I would say as far as like if we're speaking specifically like Halloween kind of season, you throw this on, you know, got some pumpkin spice. I think it hits those beats perfectly. Like, it's also like it's just oozing with passion.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is very compelling, and it just like the amount of work that went into this must have been astronomical. Some of the acting isn't great, and I think a lot of these characters should have been recast. I just think it's very competent.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I do think it's a really good movie, and I also think that like 2 of 4 of the top billed characters have subpar performances,
right,
including like our second lead being Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like, Keanu kind of disappears during the second half of the movie, and you kind of forget about him until, like, the very, very end.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's the one that's, like, so bad that you're like, how did we let this happen? Like,
yeah.
I can only imagine Gary Oldman on the set with Keanu.
And just him being like, holy shit.
And I don't know what the direction was, but like he underreacts to everything happening all the time. Like he sees Dracula like crawling down the side of the castle to go like eat wolves or something. And he just kind of goes, Like he kind of just looks out the window and no, like massive reaction. Maybe that's what he was told to do, but he's just kind of.
Well, there was also the scene where him and Mina are riding in a carriage through London, and he sees Dracula, and he's like, "Oh man, it's him. He's here," and he's like kind of trying to look shocked and like get out of the carriage for whatever reason, but it's so awkward looking. Yeah, I don't know, man. I almost don't know how he even got work back then.
It's funny because it's that same thing that is endearing in like Bill and Ted, or like even in the later John Wicks when
when he's like, yeah,
I'm thinking I'm back.
But he can back it up now because he's like an amazing choreographer.
Yeah, he's an amazing stuntman, and but his like line delivery has always been a little like
it's been very wooden,
like he's speaking English phonetically.
Yeah.
Yeah. like there's a little man in his brain that has to push all the wires to make him make words. And that's the way he's acted for forever. And it like works for him in The Matrix and it works for him in John Wick. But like when you put him in this role where he has to be some like Elizabethan actor.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this guy's from California.
Do you think Nick Cage could have pulled this off?
I think he would have made some choices at least.
I think he would have definitely conveyed the shock aspect perfectly.
He wasn't going to underact. That's for sure.
Nick Cage is Dracula in this.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty cool. Yeah. I don't know, man.
That's maybe another guy. Maybe you could have put Nick Cage in the Keanu role. That's the guy that was the right agent around that time.
Yeah. Yeah, man, this movie is an anomaly. I was just kind of shocked watching it. I just can't believe it's been up until now that I've seen this.
And we've done this whole conversation and nobody's done a Dracula accent.
Dracula.
And Gary Oldman like just does the count. and we're glued to the screen.
One titty.
1, 2, 3 succubuses in my bed. Eat the baby. Feed.
Mr. Noodle's dead. Elmo doesn't like this.
Maybe Mr. Noodle could have been Keanu Reeves.
Oh my god.
And he just reacts silently. He's like leaning up
just
against the wall.
Just a mime.
Like huffing and puffing. He's in the bed and he stands up and he's like fanning himself.
But he's just in that window the entire time. Like every single shot, you just see him from that apartment window. Like
he only exists in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's Keanu shaving, but Mr. Noodle's staring back at him, and he's like banging on the corners of the mirror trying to get out.
That's what we needed, more Sesame Street.
That is my right-hand man, Mr. Noodle.
Mr. Noodle. Yeah. I mean, I'm inclined to also put it in purgatory list.
Let's put it on the perfect.
Put it on the perfect list. All right,
that's fine. I like it. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. I think if you're so passionate about it, I'm willing to send her on up there.
I appreciate it. I have very specific taste, and so when this like hits those beats, I'm like, yeah, that's what's up.
And I before watching this, like I've watched the Red Letter Media review of this movie, and I knew sort of what to expect going in. So, it could also just be one of those expectation things where like I just kind of knew what I was walking into.
I had always seen like the images of Gary Oldman as Dracula. Mm-hmm. I just never was inclined to watch it, but I'm glad I did.
I mean, in a still, it looks goofy.
Sure, it looks like that the devil creature from what's that movie? There's a movie from the 80s.
The devil creature from the movie from the 80s.
Hold on. You can.
I thought you were going to say Padme Amidala for sure.
No, I mean it has that same feeling as like what is that shit called, bro?
The devil creature from the movie from the 80s.
He's red and he has horns. What is that? This movie, the Legend.
Oh, I've never seen that.
It's like one of those things where I just always see that image, but I've just never seen it. I'm gonna probably try to watch this sometime. But it's Tim Curry as like a devil creature. Anyways.
All right, so Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's on the list.
Would you recommend?
For fans of filmmaking, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think a person that's looking just for like a modern, I don't know, like vampire action or something, like depending on what you're signing up for, you might find this to be boring or uninteresting.
Yeah.
If you are a fan of filmmaking and the history of film, there's just a lot of stuff there to just kind of take in as far as just the different things they're doing in the production. So that would be my recommendation.
For sure.
So next month will be November. And I think this episode will probably come out a little bit in November as a bonus ep. We will be doing Nuclear November.
Oh, boy.
Apocalypse movies.
Right in time for the election.
It's the election. And then our first movie will be, Kalen, imagine a future where there's a fascist government that is putting kids in cages. There's a anti-immigrant propaganda.
I'm trying to picture this in my head, but I can't really, because there's just nothing in real life that really associates
I know,
with this.
it's really hard for you to like understand. We're dipping back into Mexican filmmakers like Guillermo del Toro back in there, because we're doing Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men.
Children of Men, baby.
And then we'll also be doing The Road,
which is a sad movie. We're going to do a lot of sad movies this month.
Did you know that guy in The Road, when he kicked that helmet in Lord of the Rings, he broke his foot?
Oh, wow. That's a great little factoid there, buddy. Yeah.
Then we'll be moving on. We'll do 28 Days. We'll do
I Am Legend.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth, Steve.
Fred.
I forgot the name of the baby from I Am Legend.
No.
Fred, she could grow hair. You think it's funny to be bald, Fred?
What if instead of like just slapping Chris Rock, he just took out that AR and just started lighting him up on stage?
What if he just like pulled the pin on the grenade? And
oh
took
my God.
Everyone down with him. That's what we need to not nail down. Are we watching the director's alternate ending to I Am Legend or the original?
I thought that was just
ending?
like a little bonus feature on like the DVD.
The original ending is the one where he doesn't sacrifice himself. Or no. The
original is when he does sacrifice himself.
Yes, but the one that they wanted, that was an alternate. So the ending that is in the theatrical cut is not the ending they wanted, but it is a extra ending that they filmed, and then it tested better. So the Will Smith sacrifice himself tested better than the Will Smith
him carrying out the woman.
Yeah,
or the
returns the vampire
the
to him.
infected thing. Yeah.
Anyways, I Am Legend, and then we will do Wall-E and Escape from New York.
Yeah, because what with Wall-E, we need a little break.
I feel like at the halfway point, because it's going to be really depressing at the halfway point, once we get to like I Am Legend, it's not quite as serious. Like I Am Legend is a serious film, but it contains Will Smith, not a serious man.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's not entirely
but
serious.
But it does have that doggo scene.
And that's true.
So that might be a little sad. But yeah.
Wall-E. Come on. And that's definitely an apocalypse
and then
movie.
Escape from New York, which will be awesome.
Yeah.
Some nice 80s action.
It's just going to be a whole lot of John Carpenter score going dun dun.
It's funny because I don't think any of these movies involve nuclear bombs. Except for maybe The Road.
I think The Road might be.
Yeah. But, okay, just post-apocalyptic. That's basically what it is.
It's just a fun name because we like doing alliteration. But we're doing apocalypse movies.
Yeah. And then we have a fun one for December.
We have a fun one for December. I have one planned for January. And I have another one planned that I don't know when I want to spring it on you. I almost don't want to tell you what even the theme is and just give you one movie at a time to watch. And then you come back and try to tell me what the theme is.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah. Let's switch it up. I like a little mystery.
But you also might hate that, and it might not be the best idea.
Fuck it. Let's do it. Why not?
Okay. So then, see you guys in November for Nuke Time. And then see you in December for Denzel December.
We're never leaving until the nukes actually go off, and then we'll leave.
Well,
or get taken up in the spaceships.
The question is whose finger will be on the nuke button, and we'll know.
Yes.
By like I think episode 2 of
Yeah.
Nuke November.
We'll see if we'll make it through November. But until next time.
Bye.
How's it going, ladies?
You're the ones we saw in front of the castle.
I am Ted of San Dimas. And, I bring to you a message of love.
From who?
From myself.
And what is this message you speak of?
Lyrics, dude. Recite him some lyrics.
Oh, you beautiful babes from England, for whom we have traveled through time. Will you go to the prom with us in San Dimas? We will have a most triumphant time.